Yep.
Hello, I'm Rachel Mullins, and this is my Pecha. The purpose of this Pecha is to examine Joel Garreau's work, Edge City, in which he discusses his exploration of the relatively new phenomenon of the Edge City, and his exploration began out of his fear and hatred for the Edge City. First, I'd like to talk about what defines an Edge City. In an Edge City, there must be more than 5 million square feet of leasable office space. In addition, there must be 600,000 or more square feet of leasable retail space, which is roughly the size of an average mall. And an Edge City must have more jobs than bedrooms. Additionally, an Edge City is perceived by the population as one place, even though usually this place does not have set political boundaries as a municipal location would. Additionally, Edge cities do not look like cities. This is not advancing. Can I stop it?
Yes.
Gonna start where I was.
Okay.
Okay.
Why don't you start at the second slide just to give yourself time to ramp up.
Okay. Edge cities must have 5 million or more people, 5 million or more square feet of leasable office space. There must be 600,000 or more square feet of leasable retail space, which is roughly the size of an average mall. And an Edge city must have more jobs than bedrooms. Additionally, an Edge city is typically perceived as one single place by the population, regardless of the fact that it does not typically have specified political boundaries. Additionally, Edge cities didn't look anything like cities about 30 years ago. They were more rural or suburban places. And how did we reach the phenomenon of the Edge city? First was the suburbanization of America, which took place following World War II. Following this was the malling of America in the 1960s and 1970s, which was basically the moving of retail out to the suburbs. And more recently, we've also had the moving of jobs out to these locations. Thus, we have self-sustaining pseudo-cities. What is structurally different about the makeup of Edge cities? Unlike typical cities, they have multiple urban cores. Additionally, there are hardly any sidewalks to walk on. Edge cities do not support public transportation like trains or subways, and they rarely have city councils or mayors. What makes the premise of an Edge city so desirable? Garreau says that there is an American conflict between the love of nature and a need for progress. In Edge cities, we have a lot of open space, which allows people to have things like gardens. But we also have the growing job force, which allows for progress. So both of the goals of the American desire are met. Who runs Edge cities? Shadow governments run Edge cities. These governments can range from neighborhood committees to a group focused on special interests like water, transportation, and these groups would focus on like an irrigation project out in the desert or traffic problems. One example of a shadow government that Garreau talks about is the Arrowhead Ranch Homeowners Association, which is the shadow government over the Arrowhead Ranch neighborhood in Phoenix, Arizona. And by moving into the Arrowhead neighborhood, residents agree to obey the rules the association creates. And these rules range from not being allowed to put specific lawn decorations out or parking their motorcycle in their driveway. And normally these shadow governments hold some type of election for picking officials, and they vote on various issues, which makes them seem democratic. However, the vote is based more on $1 one vote than on one person one vote, which is more a return to 19th century politics than the democracy we think of today. And Garreau talks about what some of the problems with Edge cities are. Normally, these places lack diversity, especially in terms of socioeconomic diversity. And this is because the houses and neighborhoods in Edge cities typically fall within a very set price range, so people with the same socioeconomic status can afford these houses. Additionally, Edge cities put a greater strain on wildlife than more traditional cities would. For example, the condors in Southern California are being put at risk by continual development of Edge cities like Irvine which take over their living and breeding ground because they're so much more expansive than a traditional city. Another problem that edge cities create is that people there are losing the sense of community because they feel that it's being too forced upon them. And so more and more people are trying to find community in their jobs, avocation, churches, and elsewhere. And nevertheless, this homogeneity that the neighborhood creates both hurts and helps the American obsession with individualism, according to Garreau's assessment. This is because people are being hurt in the sense that they can't decorate their lawn in any way they want, and they can't express themselves with their home because it's all very homogenous. But at the same time, they're kind of anonymous, so they're able to create themselves more in these neighborhoods. And now I'm going to talk about where I'm from. Where I'm from is Midlothian, Virginia, which based on Garreau's definition is an edge city of Richmond, Virginia. And even though Richmond was one of the earliest cities founded in the United States, Midlothian, Virginia was a very rural place until about 30 years ago. And this population boom in Midlothian can be seen from the fact that when my father went to high school in this area, there was one high school. And today there are 5 high schools in Midlothian, Virginia, and there's a continuous demand for more. Additionally, most of my friends' parents, as well as my own father, work within the area of Midlothian. Hardly anybody commutes out of Midlothian to go to Richmond for work. And many people come in from the surrounding rural areas into Midlothian to find jobs. Additionally, the so-called shadow governments that Garreau talks about in his reading predominate this area. They can especially be seen in various neighborhood committees. In Midlothian, there's 2 predominant neighborhoods, Brandermill and Woodlake, that are shadow governments. And the sense that they have shadow governments can be seen from the fact that they have the very nitpicky policies that the residents must follow or else they'll be fined. For example, in Brandermill, they have mailboxes that have to all be painted the exact same color, and they must be painted Brandermill brown. And the hardware stores in Midlothian actually sell the color Brandermill brown, and if your mailbox isn't painted this color, then the shadow government that runs the Brandermill community will fine you. So now that I've given you a brief overview of Garreau's analysis and provided a specific example of an edge city, I want to ask you a few discussion questions. And my questions are, if so many people are afraid of edge cities like Garreau was at the outset of this exploration, then why do they continue to be so popular for living, working, and playing? What does the makeup of these edge city neighborhoods suggest about the people living in them? And are edge cities beneficial for society as a whole, or do they possess